Hi everyone, it's Paulie here. Okay, I've been bugged for this review, so I'm caving. Um, so, caveat: I heartily dislike the superhero genre. I just don't like it. Power with no responsibility, blah blah, squee, whatever. I'm an independent comics writer, god damn it, these people were the enemy. However, way back in the way back time, a game was designed for superhero role-playing. It did it right, it did it well, it's still going, it's here in 6th edition. It's Champions. Champions is, it's a stayer, it's a great piece of work. Now, Champions came out, they decided the core system was so good that they would essentially call it the hero system, of which Champions is an aspect of the hero system. And they've gone on and they've done books to show you how that core system can be used for fantasy, for science fiction, for basically anything. What they've done is they've republished everything now in the 6th edition, and again the core has come full circle again. The core document is really this Champions system, which shows you how to do things for other settings and so on, but tells you most of this book is aimed at showing you all the stuff you'll need for superheroes, and we'll parlor you over to some supplemental books to show you extra bits you might want to know for science fiction or fantasy. Well done. All right, at its core, this is a D6 run game. They have a task resolution system that uses the belliest of all belly curves ever. 3d6, you roll 3d6. A skill and so on is going to be a number or less that you've got to get on 3d6 for you to succeed. So the higher your skill number, the easier it is to pass. If I've got a skill of 8, I need an 8 or less. If I've got a skill of 12, I need a 12 or less. So, and because that dice tends to heavily group in the 9 to 12 section, higher levels of skill are going to have more constant success. Lower skills are like riskier. So that is the dice roll base. Now this game was the superhero aspect of it. The combat was obviously going to be heavy, so a lot of this was designed around powers and combat and bashing, hurting, and kung fu fighting. And on that basis, they clearly initially designed it to work on hex grid, and so that is still there. You might find in a lot of the sort of science fiction fantasy stuff you won't need to rely on laying out hex grids and so on, which is good. I mean, some people thrive on it. Me, only if it's really necessary do I really need to have a hex map out. But when you've got powers that have got set ranges and you've bought like area effects and explosions and some guys move so much faster than others or whatever, okay, the hexes become very, very important. So it's an older game, so it ran off that idea that you have characteristics, and again they kind of conceived of the characteristics as being on 3d6. So you have a stream of different characteristics, and they've all got a default. When you are designing a character, everything is done with character points. You have a bucket of character points and used for everything. And all your characteristics have a default setting of like, a lot of them are about 10. There are some other characteristics which have lower numbers, but you can then spend points to make characteristics up and down and whatever. Now, the number of character points that you've got vary depending on the type of campaign. So you kind of have to essentially discuss with your players what kind of campaign you are running, and that's going to govern how many character points everyone's got to build. So if you're running like a highly powered superhero campaign, everyone would have this much. If it was like a lower powered or like a mutants kind of thing, fine. This game also, I found it runs very well if you want to do something like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, or She-Ra, a goofy kind of thing where there are powers running around and so on, but it's not like everyone's got 500 different things they can do. Each has got a stick. I hit things with my head. I have my mighty sword. Yeah, that's another kind of power level. It also goes down to like you could just be playing perfectly straight-laced, no special powers, nothing. So this is like very straight. This is straight-laced, but there are some people who do things, way better than others. This is something more gonzo. I want to play a 30s kind of film noir thing. I want to play a 30s thing, but it's more like Doc Savage, Man of Bronze. So not superpowers, but people can have definite shticks and stuff. Moving on to, all right, I'm doing a science fiction thing, but there are some people who have special abilities. Star Wars. Very, very flexible. So you have to kind of get it across to the players what your parameters are. Now, this will also govern the parameters of what kind of powers that they can have. But you've got your character points, and the heart of this game is that character design. You will have fun hand tooling your character. First off, you buy your characteristics. There are some characteristics which are things like your physical defense and your energy defense and so on, which you have to buy. And there's also things like your endurance is something that you purchase. When you use powers, they cost you endurance. So you kind of have to be a bit careful that you haven't made 400 million amazing powers for yourself and you use them once and I'm spent. There's also recovery, which you use to recover your endurance. Flip hand, etc. Once you've kind of picked your characteristics, now there used to be a lot of kind of figured characteristics. The new editions, no, they're just straight purchase. Much better, much cleaner, no maths involved. Thank you. But once you've designed your characteristics, you can then purchase things like skills, which again, you'll have to figure out with the umpire what suits the setting that you've got. We're all adults here, we can all figure that out. You can take disadvantages for your character that gives you more points. My guy, it could be sensual disadvantages, it could be social disadvantages. I'm from a cultural minority that gets picked on. I have to keep a secret identity and keep it safe. I have to look after my old Aunt Matilda. And a lot of these are story hooks because, oh yes, well, this guy's taken some extra points because he's got to look after his old Aunt Matilda. Of course, she is someone that the evildoers may seize and bend him to their will, otherwise they will, feed her feet first with a tree mulcher. Oh wait, it's champions, a super tree mulcher. So you can pick little social and physical and cultural advantages for yourself as well, which cost you points. Everything costs points in this. I can be rich, I can be influential, I can have contacts. I've got rank somehow. I've got military rank, I've got government rank, all these sorts of things. And then you get to the fun part if you're playing a power game, which is designing powers. Okay, so where this game kind of shines is in the power design. You can make anything. They've done a rather brilliant job of splitting this thing up into a huge series of different effects. It all costs you points, and the better it is, the more it costs you. So you can design an attack. Now, you've got basic sort of attacks. If I'm just strong or whatever and I hit you, my strength and so on, I will do damage to you based on that. But if I want to add to that, I'm hitting you with my sword or whatever, okay, you can just take one as a tool, but I know it's my magic sword, Grithamria. It's my magic sword, see a sucker, pal. I'm Elrod of Melvinbone. You design it, and what damage it does will cost you. There's ordinary damage, which kind of comes off your stun, and when stun gets to 0, you fall over, or there's lethal damage, which comes off your body and is harder to stop. You can't just roll within punches, and when your body gets to 0, you die. That's way more expensive. Ranged powers, you pay for the range. You can make a ranged power that has a broader area of effect. It could be a broader beam. It could be a cone. It could be a fan. It could be a globe. It could reach an area and explode into an area effect. You can do auto fire, so you can have multiple targets. The effects, it could just be damage. It could be attacking different characteristics. It could be draining characteristics and bringing it to you. I could do a melee attack where I seize hold of you and I suck the body points out of you and transfer that to myself as, you know, body and energy, or a distant one where I just attack your ability to live, etc. You can make yourself a fly. You could make a character that passes through matter, that stretches, that teleports at gates to different universes, to, you know, you name it, you can do it. You can design the power. And there are some aids for that, which I'll show you in a bit. Now, one thing you can do is you can make a power sort of a framework. There's great stuff. You want to do it all. But it costs you power points. Well, what you can do essentially to make your character go onto a theme, you can make these power frameworks, and you can say, essentially, I'm making a bucket of power that these family of powers over here will operate from. You pay points for the number of powers, and you pay points for the bucket. And you can only keep one of these powers running at a time from that bucket. But this familial group, you will get it at a substantial discount. So, all right, a substantial discount. So it's way better than buying them individually. So you might say, I'm going to be a mighty fire creature. Okay, I want to be a fire-based thing. All right, obviously, yeah, I want to be able to, you know, flamethrower, or I'm going to make a cone attack that's ranged and does all this. But, I also want to do wreath myself in fire in case I'm surrounded by people. All right, so I'm going to do another power, which is several hexes around me is a swirling torrent of flame. Fantastic. I want to be, Mighty Phoenix. What does that do? Where this is how I heal myself. Boom! I'm engulfed in flames, but it will heal me. Ooh, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, I can only have one of those running at a time, but the cost and power is all coming from this one bank. So, and way cheaper. And I don't want to. I can only do one action a turn, so why not? So it does keep you on theme. You know, you get water themes and, you know, all this sort of thing. It's very nice. Now, the other thing you can do is you can make powers that are cheaper by giving them disadvantages, like they only work under some conditions. You can give them advantages too. They are only stopped by some sorts of strange defenses. They don't use typical defenses. They work in unusual ways. But a very typical way of making your powers cheaper is to say, all right, I'm giving it a focus. The power comes from somewhere. I can have an accessible focus. That's something that someone could grab or shoot out of my hands or something, or an inaccessible one. We know what's doing it, but we can't just immediately grab it. We have to come up with a better plan. Iron Man, for instance, or that kind of character is pretty common to design. I have an obvious focus for my defenses and everything. It's my suit of armor. And if I'm firing laser bolts out of this thing, and it also flies, and it's also got some kind of thing that injects a healing drug into me if I get injured or whatever, all right, I can get a substantial discount on everything because it's an obvious focus. The armor's obviously doing it, but it's inaccessible. You can't just rip me out of the armor. However, you could stop me getting into it. Or you could get me out of it somehow, you know, get out of the armor, or we kill Aunt Mabel, all that sort of thing. It could be a obvious accessible focus. It is my mighty rune staff. It is my mighty rune sword. Someone could get that off you, and then they've got it. Blah, blah, blah. It could be inobvious and accessible. It's not obvious where all that power is coming from, but it is the ears. It's actually the ears that's doing it. If someone figures it out, they grab it, etc. So designing these things is an absolute riot. It can also take an atomic buttload of time. However, the game wasn't designed by fools. So that's everything in this game is like the size of a damn telephone book. But they came up with a powers supplement where they've kind of pre-thought up virtually everything that you could possibly think of power-wise, and they put it in here with side options and optional accessories and bells and whistles if you want it, and different ways of thinking of this, conceiving of this. They've done a great job, and they've also sort of made some hundreds of powers in here, and power frameworks for them too. They're all set up. Okay, these are time warp powers. These are entanglement powers. These are flame-based powers. These are mental hypnosis-based powers. And so these are all guidelines for how you could set them up in those discount frameworks and so on. So they've done a great job. So you don't have to redesign the wheel every time. You can have a look through here, and they've done it. Now, one thing they've done which I really like is they've marked every single power in the game with little symbols on the side. So as you flip through, some of them have got a thing on them saying, stop, this is definitely just for superhero campaigns. This isn't for your gumshoe campaign. This isn't, for your real world campaign. This is powers, purely powers. Another thing they've done is they put a flag on things, which is a stop sign, which is, wait, yeah, we've put this power in to be complete, and you might want to run with it, but it can screw up your game. Have a big think about whether you want to allow it in your game. And because there are things, the ability to go back and rewrite time and do all these different things. And so, okay, so they put that on so you can have a wee bit of a think. Well done. Thanks, guys. Now, because this is a game where you design characters and so on, another thing that's, of course, going to be a bit of a problem for a umpire is creating foes, because they're going to have to be designed. Now, obviously, the rules have some samples in there. It's like here's guards, here's ordinary guys, here's ordinary corporate mercenaries, here's police, here's the ordinary folk on the ground. But again, not designed by idiots. So you get these villain handbooks. They've done quite a few of these, and again, they've done hundreds of villains and foes, super villains, but also the kind of minions and level bosses and so on that would be working under them in an organization, and it gives you like some backstory and what their evil plan is and what their evil resources are. So again, you could just pick this up and use these guys to form a campaign fairly quickly. Now, the thing that they've also done, of course, is made these side books if you don't want to run as superheroes, if you want to do it as science fiction fantasy. And again, these are giant. Now, I think characters from this could probably beat superheroes. All you have to do is actually clearly equip them with this book and beat the superheroes to death with it, because it's enormous. Now, I have to say that some of these supplemental books are agony, because there's a lot of flash in that. It was one of these things where I actually wanted to tell the designers, shut up, shut up, shut up. You're being too verbose. They've illustrated and re-illustrated things with whole pages of quotes from different fantasy books about oh, this is what it means to go into combat, etc. So we know, we've read them. I don't need 5 pages of quotes from Lord of the Rings. So yeah, there's a lot of flash in this. However, it is a guide on how to run a fantasy campaign, where obviously things like protection and so on aren't going to be things that you run out and kind of design with your character. You can buy a suit of plate mail or whatever. So here's all the weapons, here's all the armor, here's how you would design a fantasy character. Here are packages that we've done for if you want to be typical fantasy species. I want to be elves, dwarves, whatever. Okay, I want to be an elf of this sort. Well, it's got excellent distance vision, and it's got this and it's got that. Its basic strength is probably about this. Now I want the elves from this fancy or this fancy or this fancy. All right, well, the Tolkien ones, they said they were great endurance runners and whatever, so you can buy that as an option, and it tells you at the end this is how many points this would cost if you're trying to do this. They've put dozens and dozens and dozens of professional professional frameworks in there for, okay, I want to be a townsman, I want to be a woodsman, I want to be a mighty corsair or whatever. Okay, here's the kind of basic skills and so on that you would buy. Here's some advantages and disadvantages that you might have, and this is what this package would cost, or gets you if it's a dumb one. And powers, they've sort of, here's powers that might be appropriate or whatever, and here's spells, here's how magic works, and this is where the whole power thing comes in. Accessing magic and how to purchase spells as specific powers and so on. They've got them all in there. So that's a good piece of work. And then what they did was, again, like the superpowers, here's a grimoire where we've pre-worked out tons of different spells, pre-done them for you, and put them in different categories. Again, If you can get a discount on purchasing spells if they're done to a theme. You know, I'm a fire mage, I'm an ice mage, you know, I am the ice queen, etc., etc. I am the king of enchantment, etc. You know, it's split them all up. And so, and the other cool thing is they've done things like mysteries. So this has got every single kind of monstery thing that you could possibly want. It's got animals, you know, it's got tigers, it's got rhinos, it's got hippos, but it's got amorphic horrors and Celtic monsters, and it's got ghosts and undead. It's got ant-men, and it's got cloud giants. It's got tons and tons and tons and tons of very cool humanoid races that you might want to use, as well as mythical creatures and so on. It's actually a really great resource. They really, again, it's an old game and it shows because they've got so many resources to draw on as they've done more and more work over the years. The 6th edition is like, that's quite so big. It's like, well, here's every cool monster we came up with since the year 1980. There you go, thud. The science fiction one, the same, gives you some great descriptions of the different kind of professional groups. You know, discusses technologies, how you might want to have some technologies work as powers, some powers work as technologies. So, you know, you could do Lensman, a science fiction setting where some people have mental powers. You could do Star Wars, where there are some people who are the mighty Jedi Knights. Or it just might be something like RuneQuest in space, where, yes, there are people, but everyone does have some ability to access some kind of mental powers. Could be an interesting idea. So, look, it's a big set of rules to absorb, but the basic element is pretty simple: a 3d6 roll, and designing the characters is the heart of it, and that can be daunting. But on the other hand, they've got resources of pre-done packages, pre-done archetypes, pre-done powers. So even if you weren't that keen on micro-designing the coolest thing ever, you could pick from pre-done stuff and say, oh, well, I want a character that does this, 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 and this. They've done the maths, they've done it there. You could, so it's not that hard to get into. What do you get out of it? Well, you get out of it a game where this can design pretty much any power. That is its strength. Any power, magic spell, effect, superpower thingy, it can do it. It can do it precisely, and it measures out the effects of all these things, how they affect characters, how defenses affect them, etc. All done with a great deal of precision. So, so it gives you a pretty precise game. It gives you a lot of possibilities. It hasn't been that popular a game in recent years. It's got its absolute fanatical adherence. Now, possibly the size of those volumes is a bit daunting. Again, it's not done by idiots, so they have done like starter sets, which are cut down sets, which don't give you all the verbiage and don't give you all of the options. So again, they do have they have thought about the fact they might daunt new players. So the 6th edition is good. It brings in a lot of clarity, and this might be a time for a new old game to shine. You know, given some of the stuff that's going on, a good, simple, robust system that has withstood the test of time and which you can do anything. With the popularity of all these Marvel films at the moment. Sorry, filmmaker. We actually have to do that. It's in our contracts. Yeah, it could be time for a bit of a renaissance on this one. If you've never played Hero, get hold of just the Champion book and take a look at it. It's really worthwhile. If you used to be a player, many of us gave it a go back in the 80s or something and kind of lost our books over the years or whatever. Well worth getting it again and remembering how cool it was. I've got friends who have designed entire fantasy worlds and entire science fiction campaigns based on this, which have run for decades, and they really love the system, really enjoy it. I can see why they do. So look, it's a game with good bones, and like I said, that it's not written by idiots, so they have covered both doing a game in depth, but also doing a game in quick, presentation for new players. Here's hoping that they get a bit of traction. Anyway, go out and take a look at it. It's worth rediscovering again. And I rebought it because for some reason we decided we wanted to play He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So, obvious accessible focus of Grayskull. Anyway, get out there, get playing games, have fun. I'll see you all in the funny papers. Thanks for watching, and if you like the reviews, by all means, hit subscribe, find me on Patreon. Down below in the comments, I've put both links to how to find these things on drive-thru, and also links to how to find my novels and my games and so on as well. Cheers, everybody.